Organizations, movements, and members. Types of religious organizations. Church and sect. Troeltsch distinguished between two main types of religious organization, the church and the sect. Churches are large organizations with millions of members, such as the Catholic Church. They are universalistic and aim to include all of society, although they tend to attract middle classes because of their conservative beliefs. They place few demands on their members and claim to have a monopoly of truth. Sects are, by contrast, small and exclusive groups. Unlike churches, sects are hostile to wider society and expect a high level of commitment. They draw their members from poor and the oppressed. Many are led by charismatic leaders rather than bureaucratic hierarchies. Denomination and cult. Niebuhr describes denominations such as Methodism as lying midway between churches and sects. Broadly accepts society's views but not linked to the state, but doesn't appeal to the whole of society like a church. A cult is highly individualistic, loose-knit and usually small grouping around some shared themes and interests, usually without sharply defined belief system. Cults are tolerant of other organizations and do not demand strong commitment from their followers, who are often more like customers than members. They may have little involvement with the cult once they have acquired the beliefs or techniques it offers. They are world-affirming and claim to improve the life of this world. Similarities and difference. Wallace. How they see themselves. Churches and sects claim that their interpretation of their faith is the only legitimate one or correct one. Denominations and cults accept that there can be many valid interpretations. How they are seen by wider society. Churches and denominations are seen as respectable and legitimate. Cults and sects are seen as deviant. New religious movements. Since the 1960s, there has been an explosion in the number of new religions and organizations such as the Unification Church, also known as the Moonies, Transcendental Meditation, Krishna Consciousness, and many more, leading to new attempts to classify them. Wallace categorizes new religious movements, NRMs, into three groups based on their relationship to the outside world. Word rejecting new religious movements. These are similar to Troeltsch's sects, for example the Moonies or Branch Davidian. They are clearly religious with a clear notion of God. Members must make a sharp break with their former life, highly critical of the outside world and seek radical change. Members live communally with restricted contact with the outside world. They are often accused of brainwashing members. World-accommodating NRMs often breakaways from existing mainstream churches or denominations, such as non-Pentecostalists who split from Catholicism. They neither accept nor reject the world, focusing on religious rather than worldly matters. Members tend to live conventional lives. World-affirming NRMs differ from all other religious groups and may lack some conventional features of religion such as collective worship, and some are not highly organized, for example Scientology or Transcendental Meditation. Most are considered cults, whose followers are often customers rather than members. Non-exclusive and tolerant of other religions, but claims to offer traditional, special knowledge or techniques. They accept the world as it is. Stark and Bainbridge, sects and cults. Stark and Bainbridge identified two kinds of organizations that are in conflict with wider society. Sects result from schemes in existing organizations. They break away from church, and usually because of disagreement over doctrine. Cults are new religions such as Scientology. Stark and Bainbridge subdivide cults according to how organized they are. Audience cults are least organized and do not involve formal membership or much commitment. There's little interaction between members, for example UFO cults. Client cults provide services to their followers, for example spiritualism. Cultic movements are the most organised and demand a higher level of commitment than other cults such as the Moonies. Explaining the growth of new religious movements. Sociologists have offered three main explanations for the sudden growth of and popularity of NRMs: marginality, relative deprivation, and social change. Marginality. As noted by Troeltsch, sects tend to draw their members from the poor and oppressed. Sects tend to arise in groups who are marginal to society or whom feel disprivileged. They are not receiving the just economic rewards and social status. Sects offer a solution to these problems by offering members a theodicy of disprivilege. This is a religious explanation for their suffering and disadvantages. For example, the Christian believe that the meek shall inherit the earth. Relative deprivation. This is a subjective sense of being deprived. Many feel as if they are, even if they're not. Thus, although middle-class people are materially well off, they may feel spiritually deprived, meaning they may turn to sects for a sense of community. Social change. Wilson argues that rapid periods of social change undermine established norms and values. Those who are most affected by this disruption may turn to sects as a solution to offer a renewed sense of community. The Industrial Revolution in Britain led to the birth of Methodism, which offered a sense of community, clear norms and values, and the promise of salvation. The growth of the New Age. The term New Age covers a range of beliefs and activities that have been widespread since the 1980s. They are extremely diverse and eclectic. They include belief in UFOs and aliens, astrology, tarot, crystals, yoga, and medicine, etc. Healers said that there are two common themes that characterize the New Age. Self-spirituality, so they turned away from traditional religions such as churches and instead look inside themselves to find it. The second is de-traditionalization, so they reject spiritual authority of traditional sacred texts. Instead, it values personal experiences and believes that we can find the truth for ourselves. Postmodernity and the New Age. Drain argues that the appeal of New Age movement is part of a shift towards postmodern society. One feature of postmodernity is a loss of faith in meta-narratives or claims to have the truth. People have become disillusioned with churches and mainstream religions' failure to meet their needs. As a result, they're turning to the New Age idea that each of us can find truth by looking within ourselves. However, you can argue that the size of the New Age makes it socially insignificant. Modernity and the New Age. Some sociologists argue that the growth of the New Age is the latest phase of modern society and not a postmodern one. Could be argued that modernity leads to secularization, thereby removing traditional alternatives to New Age beliefs. In modern society, the individual has many different roles, which can lead to a fragmented identity. New Age beliefs offer a source of authentic identity. Healer sees the New Age and modernity as linked in four ways: a source of identity, consumer culture, rapid social change, and the decline of traditional organized religion. Religiosity and social groups. Important differences between social groups and the beliefs that they hold. Class, lower class, world rejecting sects, high classes, world accepting churches and cults. Gender and religiosity. Differences in gender and religiosity. While priesthoods of most religions are usually male, most women than men participate in religious activities and believe in God, the devil, sin, and life after death. In 2005, 1.8 million churchgoers in the UK were women as compared to 1.36 million men. Twice as many women are involved in sects. Reasons for gender differences. So socialization and the gender role. Miller and Hoffman say that women are more religious than men because they are socialized into being passive and obedient. These qualities are most valued by religions, meaning that women are more likely than men to be attracted to these religions. Women also more likely to have a part-time job than men, which gives them more time to participate. Women and the New Age. Women are associated with nurture and a healing role, therefore giving them greater cause to be attracted to New Age movements than men. Healers in Woodhead found that 80% of participants in the holistic milieu in Kendall were female. The Pentecostal gender paradox. Since the 1970s, Pentecostalism has grown rapidly, particularly among the poor in Latin America, despite being generally regarded as patriarchal. It has proved attractive to women. Sociologists say that this is because Pentecostalism demands that followers adopt an ascetic lifestyle and a traditional gender division of labour. Pentecostal women can use the ideas to combat the culture of machisms. Men are pressured by the church to change their ways and act responsibility and support their families. Despite women being more religious, there is evidence to suggest that women are now leaving the church at a faster rate than men. Brown offers a further explanation of the decline in women's church-going by arguing that since the 1960s, women have begun to reject traditional subordinate gender roles. Because the two are so closely interlinked, to reject this traditional concept of religion, women would also have to reject traditional religion at the same time. You could also argue that New Age movements are now more freeing than oppressive monotheistic religions that centre around the doings of a male all-powerful God. Ethnicity and religiosity. The differences. Muslims, Hindus and Black Christians are more likely than white Christians to view religion as important. The reasons for ethnic differences in religiosity. One idea is that most ethnic minorities originate from poorer countries with traditional cultures, leading to religious belief to be more important in these areas. On arrival in the UK, they maintain these beliefs and practices from their country of origin. Cultural defence, Bruce's idea. Religion in certain situations is important in offering support and proving a sense of national identity in an uncertain or hostile environment. Cultural transition. Religion can be a means of easing the transition into a new culture by providing a sense of community and support with an alien environment. This is the explanation given by Herberg for the high levels of religious participation among the first-generation immigrants in the USA. Age and religious participation. The general pattern is that the older the person is, the more likely they are to be religious and attend religious services. However, two exceptions of this pattern are the under 15s are more likely to attend church or religious services because they are made to by their parents, and the over 65s are more likely to be sick or disabled and therefore unable to attend. Reasons for age differences. Voess and Crockett, the aging effect, the view that people turn to religion as they get older. As we approach death, we naturally become more interested or concerned by spiritual matters and the afterlife, etc. As a result, these individuals are more likely to attend church. The generational effect. This is the view that as society becomes more circular, each generation is less circular than before. Thus, there are more old people than young people at church today because they grew up at a time during when religion was more popular. Voess and Crockett argue that the generational effect is more significant of the two.